I'm Dr. Mindy Pelz, for those of you that don't know me, and I am a Maximized Living doctor. And for the last year, I've been training under Dr. Majors. I've been a chiropractor for 17 years. I've been bringing health and wellness to people for 17 years. And a year ago, I just made a decision that I was going to do work with my patients in a whole nother level and really dive into nutrition and really dive into fitness and dive into those things that I'm going to teach you today because of how crazy powerful it can be for your life. And I have to tell you that there's like this almost anxiousness and nervousness inside of me because I really want you to get this information. And I don't want you to get it for me. I want you to get it for you. And my staff always tells me that when I get up to speak, I'm like a crazy lunatic. And my intensity is really high. And they're like, can you just bring your intensity down a little bit? And so I have to tell you that I don't know if I can bring my intensity down today. Because there are two camps in this room right now. There's the camp that has a diagnosis and resonates with everything that Dr. Majors went through. And if you are in that camp, I've been with you on the sidelines, cheering you on, helping you. And I understand the highs and the lows of that. And I want to show you something today that if you grasp it, it will change the direction of your diagnosis and where you're going. And then there's the camp that is like me, where when I first saw that, honestly, all I know is how to be is just real and transparent with you. But when I first saw that, I thought, thank God that wasn't me. What would I do if I had a situation like that? Could I leave my kids and go for 3 weeks wondering if I may not come back? But that cannot be the place that I sit. I have to move myself into action. And so today, we are going to go through the steps that you can start to do now. I really, honestly hope that you leave here filled up, motivated, and feeling like you need to put yourself onto a path. Because when we do nothing is actually a choice. So what I loved about what the woman says is that cancer doesn't care if you have money, cancer doesn't care if you have time, cancer doesn't care what your circumstance is, and you're going to hear from some people today who will tell you how cancer didn't care about them. It only takes over the body, and when it takes over, it just goes. So if you do nothing, then you have made a choice. You put yourself on a path. So I don't want you leaving here doing nothing. And if we look at statistically, I'm used to talking with my hands, by the way, so this is all quite new for me. Statistically, right now, in our country, cancer is getting more prevalent and more prevalent and more prevalent. You guys were given little stickies like this. Everybody has a blue sticky folded up. And not everybody got one. So don't look around and go, oh my God, I didn't get one. We have more than that. Okay, we must have more women in the group. Okay, so right now, if you have a blue sticky, 1 out of 2 men are getting cancer. 1 out of 2 men. So what about the pink sticky? Hold up the pink sticky. 1 out of 3 women are getting cancer. So if you have a pink sticky, what we did is when you came in, every second man was given one and every third woman was given one. That means that those are the odds, that those are the chances of you getting cancer. And what we know right now is that it's the #1 killer in children. So if you think that this is an old person's problem or something you're going to have to deal with later on in life, that's not the case. That's the #1 killer for children. And we're going to share with you today, for me, I am not okay with that. Like, what? You were born healthy. Why should you be 10, 11, 12 years old and get cancer? That's not okay. And that's why those of you that are my patients, I had you come with your kids. And if you guys that are here and you're like, why did my parent drag me here? It's because you're responsible for your health and you need to hear this information. So the other thing that we know is that in the 60s, Nixon decided to declare a war on cancer. And in the 60s, they were really Because 1 out of 214 people were getting cancer, and that was a big old deal. Like 1 out of 200. So since the 60s, we have spent, I don't even know how many millions, trillions of dollars trying to find the magic pill, trying to figure out what the best chemo remedy is to fix this problem. And we sit today at 2013, 1 out of 2 men and 1 out of 3 women. So the first question we have to ask ourselves is, are we looking for the right thing? Is cancer getting worse because we haven't found the right chemotherapy? No, because we're looking for the wrong piece of the puzzle. Cancer is getting worse because of our environment, and we're going to teach you today how you create an environment inside of you so that cancer doesn't grow. So the other thing that we know is that right now, if we do nothing, so if you guys leave here, you do nothing, or you decide you leave here and you go out and you go to McDonald's with your friends and you decide, that's not a big deal. Guess what? The trajectory that we are on right now is that by 2030, we're expecting a 75% increase in cancer rates. So I'm not here to scare you, I'm here to empower you that we have to be doing something different, or these statistics are only going to get worse. So what I want to do today is teach you why is it that the numbers are getting so great? And I think that the first thing we have to understand is what the heck a cancer cell is. And again, my staff has told me, can you please, we're going to talk about the mitochondria of the cell today, and my staff's like, don't talk about the mitochondria, that could get confusing. But I want to share with you why we get cancer, because I feel like if you understand it, then you can figure out how to not get it, right? I mean, wouldn't that make sense? So here's what happens. We have 2 types of cells, if I could just make it as simple as possible. We have a healthy cell, and we have a cancer cell. And healthy cells are living and dying all day long. There's, one day you've got a healthy cell, you wake up the next morning, that cell's dead, now it's gone and a new cell appears. So all day long it's going healthy, dead, healthy, dead. What happens is that a cancer cell mutates off of that. So it was a healthy cell that now became a cancer cell, and it does not die. It just keeps growing and growing and growing, and the worse your internal environment, the worse it loves that, and it's just going to keep growing and growing until you decide to do something different. When I talk to people and they say, I know it's really scary, but I don't think I'm going to be the one that gets it. All of you that are in my office know that one of the first things I'll teach you in the first 3 days that you come in is that we all have cancer cells inside of us. So right now, if you think you're immune, I have to tell you that you're not. We have anywhere from 100 to 10,000 cancer cells in us right now. So how that plays out is based off of our lifestyle and the things that we decide to do to either feed it or to destroy it. So there are 4 things, and if you guys have notes, I really recommend that you write these down, because if you're like me, I'll remember 1 or 2 things, and then I go home and I go, what did she say about this? So there are 4 things, the 4 differences between a healthy cell and a cancer cell. The first is that a healthy cell uses oxygen for fuel. So a healthy cell needs to have oxygen. So we're going to teach you here in a second how do you drive oxygen into your cells. A cancer cell uses sugar for fuel. So you guys perhaps have heard this, that, and I know this is a really difficult one for people to understand or to change, but a cancer cell has 17 times more receptor sites for sugar than a healthy cell. It's like a Pac-Man of sugar. So if you are sitting there right now with a diagnosis and you decide to have a bowl of ice cream tonight, and for me, I have trouble understanding that behavior, because if I had a diagnosis, I'd want to not do anything. I want to do everything possible to not feed it. When you're eating sugar, you're feeding your cancer. That's how it thrives. That's how it takes over. So it also, a healthy cell is alkaline. So how many people got their alkaline tested when they came in? Hopefully everybody. So we're going to go into alkalinity here in a little bit. But in an alkaline environment, a healthy cell can thrive. A cancer cell thrives in an acidic environment. So if you, on your little tab, had 7.4 or less on your alkalinity or your pH test, you are acidic, and you have an internal environment that cancer can thrive in. You also, a healthy cell needs a proper nerve supply. And we're going to talk about this. A healthy cell needs a nerve supply to tell it when to live and when to die and to constantly regenerate. A cancer cell loves when it doesn't have a healthy nerve supply. In fact, I'm going to show you a study here where they have proven that if you don't have a nerve supply to a cancer cell, they love that because then they can metastasize all over your whole body. It's like a wild, gone rogue cell. So these are the 4 things that we've got to work with. Now let's talk about treatment here, and I'm going to briefly touch on this, but this is not something that I want to get too in depth on because I want to focus on what you can be doing, not what perhaps you've already done or what you're thinking of doing. But chemo, let's just take chemo as an example, was derived from mustard gas, which is a poison. Chemo is poison. And so what happens is that they poison your whole body, and they poison the good stuff and they poison the bad stuff. So everything, they basically say, you have cancer, we're now going to just kill I'll try not to swear this because they'll just kill the heck out of your immune system because that's how we can get to the cells, and it will kill the rapidly growing cells. But it doesn't give you an environment in which you can start to work with the new cells that are forming or the slower growing ones. And there becomes a point where your body actually becomes immune to the chemo. So chemo, we've spent how much money, but chemo is not our solution. It's for if you're doing chemo, I understand it, and again, I'm not here to debate it, but you can't rely 100% on it. You have to be doing some lifestyle. Surgery, there are studies showing that when they actually go in and remove the tumor, it's very difficult to get all the tumor parts out, and that just the sheer act of cutting can cause those tumor cells to spread. So that's not a complete total solution. And drugs, transplantation, all of that are just putting a patch on it. We're just attacking the cancer cell. What I want to teach you how to do is make sure that you never get a cancer cell and that you don't allow that cancer cell to thrive. So, what is it that causes our body to allow these things to keep proliferating inside of us? And there are basically 5 things. The first one is stress. Raise your hand if you have stress in your life. Okay. Some people can raise their hand. I want to talk to you. Stress. Every time we're stressed out, there is a chemical reaction that happens in your body. So, if all of a sudden I taped off all the doors and the windows and I lit the building on fire and we were all inside of here, I will tell you, your blood pressure would go up, your body would start secreting chemicals, you would be pretty freaked out. Well, that's the same thing that happens to you when you get in the car and you're upset with the person that cut you off and you're running late and you're mad at your husband and you're mad at your boss and you keep the stress going in your body. You're raising your blood pressure, you're affecting your chemicals inside of you, and you're causing your body to be in disharmony all day long because of stress. Poor nutrition. I could spend 5 days on poor nutrition, but I'm going to give you some real specific stuff today that you need to be doing. Fitness. I've been a chiropractor for 17 years, and I am appalled at how sedentary we've become. People are sitting all day long because we have to. That's our job. Most of you are at computers, and so we're sitting all day long. So I want to teach you how, in your busy life, you can actually be doing some fitness that's going to make a difference and drive some oxygen into your body. Toxicity. So one of the things about Dr. Majors is that he was eating really well, he was working out really well, but he wasn't addressing his toxic issues. That was something that he totally dove into. And again, we could do a whole seminar on toxicity toxicity alone, and we will. We've done it before, and we're going to do it again in the next couple of months. And then I'm going to teach you, for those of you that are brand new to chiropractic, what a subluxation is and why it's traumatizing to your nervous system, and why your nervous system is the most important system that you have in your body. So in order for us to not build cancer, we've got to do the opposite of these things. We've got to maximize our mind, we've got to maximize our nerve supply, we have to maximize our nutrients, we got to maximize our fitness and our oxygen, and we've got to minimize our toxins. So we're going to break each one of these down. So the first one is, how do you maximize your mind? And I'm going to bring Lanny up here in a moment, who's going to share her story. What I'll tell you is that when you come into my office, this is actually the first thing that we work on. And then when you're a brand new patient, the first couple of days, we work on how do we create a winning mindset towards health. Because I could teach you to eat right, I could give you all the fitness ideas that you want, I could give you the best adjustment, I could do all the greatest things, but if your mindset is not lining you up for success, nothing's going to work. And Lanny, who's going to come up here in a moment, when she came to me 9 years ago, she got the diagnosis of breast cancer, and she'll tell her story. And I've been on this journey with her for 9 years. And what I absolutely love about Lanny, she's the most humble person, she'll never admit this, but is that the day she got a diagnosis, she decided she had to change her mind. I love that what Dr. Majors said. He said, if I want to know, if nobody's beaten this, I want to be the first. That's a heck of a mindset. So she's going to share with you what the mental process that she went through to take full responsibility for her diagnosis and the direction that her health was heading. So, with that, Miss Lanny.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I don't usually use a microphone, but I'll try to preserve my oxygen for cancer killing. So he already told you a little bit about my story. I really like what Dr. Major said. I love that video because I had the same reaction. I was living life to the fullest. I was 40 years old, and someone said, oh yeah, 40, somebody said, oh, you have to get a mammogram. I'm like, yeah, I'll get around to it. But prior to that, we were working our tails off, having fun, traveling, raising kids, just life was good. I felt great. And then I went for a mammogram, and they're like, yeah, you don't feel so good. I'm like, I'm good. But the pictures and scans, all that stuff told a different story. And at that moment, I'm like, of course, you're in a little bit of a shock, and like, how does this happen? I was upset, of course. I probably shed a few tears. And then I said, okay, well, I got to know, what are we going to do? What are we going to do about this? And I have this sort of really irritating habit of like, I got to talk to the doctor, not just any old doctor. I need to know who's working on this, who's the best, all these things. So through a long process, we went to Stanford, which around here is one of the best in theory. And I got in front of not just any doctor. I said, okay, who's in charge of oncology here? And I won't name his name because maybe he's in the room. No. But he invited me or told me that there was a tumor review board, and that's where they take the best doctors at Stanford, and they all look at your case. They look at your pictures. They do so I'm laying there in the room in front. I said, of course, I'm going to see the tumor review board. So I'm laying there, and they're all investigating and reading. And at that time, they had Palm Pilots. That's how long ago it was. But they were like putting all these numbers in, and they all had the same look on their face, and they all agreed. Every one of them had the same diagnosis for me or prognosis in that, well, based on your numbers and your scan and your situation, you've got about a 30% chance to be here in 3 to 5 years. And I will not swear in this room, although some of my little friends know that I can't. I try to be really good. And I said, oh yeah? Well, I'm going to be part of that 30%. And I never went back to Stanford. I'm like, fine. I'm not coming back here. And I had to find a different way. So what I think we just started reading, and and listening, going to, I didn't ever join a support group, but I was just listening to people who had been through what I'm going through, and I just started realizing that, okay, I know we really can't control everything, but I do think what we can control, we should. And I quickly learned that you can control two things. You control what you put in your body, and you can control what you put on your body. That's about it. Everything else, you know, the EMFs from the cell towers are all around us, the air is all around us, the water we drink, you know, I'm trying to keep that as clean as possible. All that stuff is, you know, relatively safe, but you've got to take care of here so that your body can flush out the bad stuff. And I quickly learned that cancer cells are just like the bad cells. And about a little over 9 years ago, we learned really quickly what terrorism was, right? Were quick studies on that. Well, I liken cancer cells to little terrorists. They like to hide in the dark. They like to swim around in sugar. They like to hide, you know, behind other healthy things in your body that are going on, but the healthy cells have to be stronger. And so, I don't know, I think maybe I was born this way, but I wasn't born as smart as I am now. And I just went around, again, started collecting information and just applying that knowledge. And I realized that some people want to talk to me sometimes about, what did you do? I want to do that. I'm like, well, what you really have to do is apply what you learn. You talk to a lot of people, you question a lot of things. That's being a human. But you've got to take control. You've got to make a shift. And you've got to, I don't want to say you, me. I had to make a shift. I had to say, okay, that makes sense to me. I'm going to do that. That makes sense to me. And some things don't make sense. A really funny side note I have to say because my husband's here. Thank you so much. When I was first diagnosed, I won't go into why, but I ended up on the front page of the Mercury News. Had to do with my community, my neighbors. We all shared dinner and made meals together, and we had quite a story to tell ourselves, and somebody thought that was interesting, so they did some research on us, and they were going to do a little article, like, I don't think in the local section, and we were on the front page, and I about flipped my mind. But at that time, we became popular for about, I think, 15 minutes of fame. And this guy called our house. I don't know his name, but I hear my husband talking to him. And he's talking about this product called mangosteen, which I think is a fruit, I'm not sure, but from some far off land. And he was so passionate about his mangosteen, I had to have it. He needed to deliver it to me. So my husband gave him our address. I'm like, what? But in a way, I'm thankful that that happened because people out there have stuff. They've got information. They've got stuff that's working. Why not? I mean, if it worked for somebody, it might work for me. So I've been through many iterations. We've made lots of changes in our family, bringing everybody along we can, and just saying, come on, people, this is our one chance at life. We've got one chance to do this. And there's not one way. There's not a right way. There's a right way for us. So I just think that each of us has to, be here, thank you, and listen and learn and just apply that knowledge. I did write notes, but I forgot what I wrote. So let me just cheat real quick. So when I was, kind of happy and dumb and, that ignorance is bliss thing, that's really so true. But I'm trying to be blissful about where I am now. But the kind of changes we've made is I did do chemotherapy. I did do radiation. I did do surgery. I did all that because that was what was in front of me at the time. But quickly, someone said, hey, I'm doing this cool touch therapy called cellular response. You want to come over? I'm like, oh, okay. So I go over and I do that, and out of that, and then the mangosteen guy shows up. I learned about energy healing and things that I used to call people like me like granola, okay? I'm like, granola's not that bad. So I started really paying attention to what people were doing that made them healthier. I learned about meditation, and oh my gosh, I learned about wheatgrass. And to this day, I've drank so much wheatgrass in my life, I can't go by a mowed lawn without having a little gap. But even still, I should take the show. Even with wheatgrass giving me a gag reflex, I was in San Diego a couple weeks ago where I originally learned about wheatgrass. I'm like, well, I'm in San Diego. I gotta go get some wheatgrass. wheatgrass. So I went and I did a shot of wheatgrass, and I mean, you know, it's not great, but there's this great mantra, and I'm full of them, and I'm going to share a few with you today. I love what it does for my body. And you saw, I don't know if any of you took note, I know my husband does because he sees it every morning. They made some green stuff in the blender, and it was really a horrible color. I drink that. Whatever that was. I mean, stuff, when you mix brown and purple, it's not good. But I love what it does for my body. I mean, I'm not supposed to be here. And through all, I mean, it's not just a miracle. I don't even think of it like that. It's because of all that I've done. It's because of all I've applied. And I know we can do that if we can't sit around and say, it's not going to happen to me. Well, it might not happen to you, but it might happen to your neighbor or your spouse. And it sucks no matter what. So we just all have to kind of jump on board together. There's a few things that Maximize Living has taught me. And like Mindy, Maximize Living came into my life as I was going on my journey. And when Dr. Majors published that book, Cancer Killers, I got kind of mad about the title because I don't really like to talk about cancer. I like to talk about health. But the cause is the cure. I love that. And I read it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've done all of these things. But I wonder if I'd have been given that book 9 years ago, would I have had to go through the painful journey that I've been on to get where I am? And maybe, but it's really cool that it's in that book, so I encourage you just to even get your hands on it and finger through it because there's some great information in there. But they talk about overcoming, so I can't see my eyes, I can't do much about my eyes. Overcoming limiting beliefs and, you know, negative self-talk, all that stuff. It's stuff you kind of hear in your worlds probably, but really I think just knowing that you might have control over something, you know, take it and just do the best you can every day. I wake up every single day and say these words. I'm alive, I'm awake, I exist, and I believe. And I wake up every day with that. And maybe yesterday, I might have kind of slipped a little and, you know, had something that I shouldn't have had. I'm like, and I know it's fueling my camp. I'm like, all right, but today's a new day. And every day's a new day. So I encourage you to get out of bed and just be pumped up. And then I guess we do talk a bit about the big why. Like, what is our reason for being here today? Some people are here because I dragged you here. Some people are here because they like our pink headbands. Some people are here just because it's like, well, that's an interesting topic. And but the big why really is right here. Like, why am I here today? Not why does my friend want me to be here? So I want you to ask yourself, why am I here? What can I do with the information that we're pulling together today? And then I think, you know, there's a lot of things that I am constantly reminding myself, and I'll close with this, is that become who you want to be. Be that person. I think Gandhi gets a lot of credit for saying, be the change you want to see in the world. He didn't actually say that, but he said a lot of really cool stuff. But that's a great synopsis of what Gandhi's talking about. And I'm trying to be that change. We've got to change our mindset, and we can change our outcome. I think the main thing we should believe is that anything is possible. So thank you very much for being here.
That was awesome. So I had an experience the other night with my son, who was 11 years old, and we've been battling brushing teeth. And he's 11, like he should know, right? I mean, and I keep saying to him, like, you know, it's your teeth. And the other night I said to him, tell me, did you brush your teeth? And he said, yes. And I said, you know, the same thing we do every night. Did you really brush your teeth? Yes, I really brushed my teeth. Did you really, really brush your teeth? Because I really need to know, right? And so he said to me last Thursday night, he said, Mom, I brushed my teeth because I know that if I don't, it only hurts me. Woo! Yeah. But that's what as we move into nutrition, that's what I want you to know, because this could be your favorite subject, or you could really hate me at this moment. And I don't care if you hate me as long as you keep working on the nutrition part, because a lot of things that we are eating right now are not serving us, and they are building cancer. Landy and I, one of the things that we realized when Landy started coming in, I remember she said to me, you mean if I go to Safeway and there's a label, and it has the ingredients, and Safeway has decided that it should go on the shelf, and the FDA has decided it's okay to be there, that could still be harmful for me? I said, yeah. So understand that just because it's in your supermarket doesn't mean that it's going to build health. So the first step to changing your nutrition is really changing your mindset and understanding that if you decide to eat improperly, you're not affecting anybody but yourself. Okay? The second thing is, this is a really big subject, so I've boiled it down to 5 things. And so this would be another place you want to take notes. There are 5 changes that if you walk out of here and you make, really minimize your chances of getting cancer, or if you have a cancer diagnosis, will really boost your immune system. Some of you are going to look at these things and be like, awesome, I'm doing that, and some of you are going to be like, okay, I need to start to change the way that I look at my food. Before I go into those 5 things, I also want to tell you that we've got things that the cell needs to thrive. So in order for your healthy cell to live, it has to have amino acids, which is protein. It has to have antioxidants, which is fresh fruits and vegetables. The Monavie back there, you need to, when you leave here, go get tested to see what your antioxidant level is, because a healthy cell needs antioxidants. It needs fatty acids. I'm going to show you in here why you can eat good fat. It needs live enzymes, which is why you need to throw your microwave away. Because every time you microwave something, you kill all the enzymes in it. So whatever you're putting in your microwave and you take out and you eat, it's nothing, it's dead food. And it needs vitamins and minerals, which is why we recommend everybody take a multivitamin, because it's really hard to get all the vitamins and minerals that you need in your body. So let's just start with the 5 things that you need to change. The first is taking out processed foods. Okay, we've all heard this. You got to take out processed foods, and I put a list up there of some of them: refined grains, sugars, artificial sweeteners, imitation foods, anything that says natural or low fat, anything that's going to live on your shelf for a really long time is probably a processed food. And I want to show you something that really changed the way that I look at this, because when I eat every once in a while, like let's say, I'll tell you one of my favorite things is gluten-free pretzels. I don't know why, I love those things. They're like salty, and I used to eat them, and I think it's a neutral event. When it goes into my body, I know it's not nutritious, but I had a salad before I ate them, so I should be okay, right? But what I realized recently is that when we're eating well, we create this reserve of great nutrients. So every time I'm having fruits, every time you need to try our smoothie back there, because it's packed with all the nutrients that you need every single day. So every time I'm eating well, I am building up my reserve of nutrients. When I eat a processed food, when that food goes into me, it takes energy to digest it. It takes time for my kidneys to process it. My whole body has to go through an energetic exchange to handle those processed foods. And so it's not a neutral event. It actually starts to deplete my reserves. So if I'm eating fast food, I'm eating food that has no nutritional value, my nutrient reserve is going down, 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 down. And if you're doing this day after day after day, year after year after year, you have completely depleted your nutrients until you're way down here. And then you leave yourself wide open for disease, for cancer. Your body doesn't have the ability to detox anything, and you just are building more and more unhealthy cells because of the processed foods. In his book, I recommend everybody leave with a copy of his book. In his book is a list of processed foods. So if you know that that's you heard it in that couple. I love the couple with the gal with the breast cancer, and the husband looks so like, yeah, that was us, you know. And he said, we ate the standard American diet. So if you're eating the standard American diet, understand that every day is just depleting you. It's just depleting year after year, and you're just depleting yourself until you have nothing left for you to heal or to function normally. Okay, that's my first one. Now, the second thing you need to do is learn how to function better, is to have proper pH. So So that's why we gave you the pH strips. So why you need proper pH, and this is what I'm gonna teach you, and my staff, once again, they were like, oh, careful, you might lose some people here, so stick with me, okay? So, this is a cell in our body. Our cells have a little place inside of them called mitochondria. And the mitochondria are like the powerhouse of the cell. And the reason that they're the powerhouse of the cell is that they produce something called ATP. If any of you took biochemistry or chemistry way back when, ATP, what you need to know about that is that gives us energy. The more ATP you have, the more energy you have. So if this cell is alkaline on the inside, your body can take the oxygen that you give it and turn it into ATP. If you are acidic, so if your number was 7 or below, you are acidic. So if you're acidic, what you're doing is you're creating congestion in the cell. And as you create congestion in the cell, the oxygen cannot go in to the cell, and your body is going to start to produce what we call lactic acid. And cancer loves lactic acid. It thrives in a lactic acid environment. So for many of you, I really recommend that you get a pH strip and you test it. If you have a cancer diagnosis, you should be testing your pH on a regular basis, because you need to have that inside of that cell as alkaline as possible so that you can be getting all the energy that you need. Again, we're trying to make this as ridiculously easy for you, and so we've put a chart inside of your packet that shows you what acidic and alkaline foods are. This is a start. This is not the end-all be-all, but I want you to start to see at what you're possibly eating that could be putting you on the acidic side. Okay, that's number 2. Number 3 is essential fatty acids, and this is the part where I hope you're going to like me, because you can eat good fat, raw organic butter. Go home and eat as much of it as you want. I know a lot of people are like, look at that one down. Yeah, I'll explain this one. So here's the thing. 50% of my diet is from good fat. 50%. I eat fat all day long. So if fat makes you fat, I should be the fattest person in the room. Fat doesn't make you fat. Bad fat makes you fat. Bad fat congests the cell. Good fat, when you have plenty of essential fatty acids in your body, it creates this amazing membrane around the cell that loves oxygen. It escorts the oxygen into the cell, and now that cell can keep producing energy, and more energy, and more energy, and more energy. One of the things that we see with cancer patients, and one of the a very common symptom is fatigue. And the reason that you have fatigue is because this cell either doesn't have enough fatty acids around it, or it doesn't have, it's not acidic, or it's not alkaline. So you're not producing ATP. If you're one of those people right now that you're like, yeah, I don't have cancer, but I'm tired a lot, this also could be your situation. So you've got to find a way to change the makeup of that cell. And that's why we tell you to get off the processed foods, and that's why we tell you to add in essential fatty acids. So what are some good essential fatty acids? Coconut oil is fantastic. In the shake back there, that's my morning shake that I personally love. I put coconut butter, raw coconut butter that goes in there so that I love to start my day, like Lanny said, I love to start my day with just as much good stuff as possible. Because I don't know about you guys, but as the day goes on, I start to think about life, and I don't think as much about nutrition. So I want to start off with the right stuff. So coconut oil or coconut butter, full fat, raw dairy. Now, I'm not going to go into a long debate over raw milk, because I know that's another highly contested thing. But you can easily get raw cheese. So I eat about a half a stick, or for lack of a better word, of raw cheese every single day. I put it on with my red pepper, I put it with my green apples. I eat a tremendous, but I only eat raw cheese, because pasteurized cheese has more sugar. When you pasteurize something, you are actually turning it into a more sugar-filled substance. So we're trying to minimize sugar. Olive oil, which is great if you don't heat it really high. Avocados, I have an avocado every day. And animal proteins with good fat. Of course, salmon, we all know salmon is a really good thing to be eating. I personally, again, I live a busy life, so I start off my day with the right thing. I end my day with the right thing, because that's usually when I have the most time. And then I take supplements. So one of the supplements I highly recommend that everybody should be taking is omega-3s. Everybody should be on a fish oil. And if you're not on a fish oil, that's going to be on your top to get. To make sure that you start to do, because you need to have that cell in the proper essential fatty acids on it. Okay, we're going to talk about GMOs for a moment, and I know this is each one of these subjects I could talk for days on. And next Thursday night in my office, we are doing a Nutrition 101 class. So if this is something that you feel like you need work on, please make sure when we're done that you sign up for the Nutrition 101 class. But genetically modified food is not real food. And they're now proving that things that are genetically modified will actually create tumors. So if you have a cancer diagnosis in here right now, you need to be getting off genetically modified foods. If you don't, again, I really recommend that we put that up there at our top list. I'm only giving you 5 things that you need to do. So how do you know if something's genetically modified or not? So anybody seen the sticker system? You guys know about this? Okay, so when you go to buy fruit and vegetables, there are stickers that tell you if it's organic, if it's conventional, or if it's genetically modified. So if it's organic, it begins with a 9. It has a 9 digit on there. If it's conventional, it begins with 4, and if it's genetic or genetically modified, it will have an 8 on it. If you are again, have a diagnosis, you need to really be down on the organic side, but never eat anything with an 8 sticker on it. Okay, another one of the things that you need to be doing is vitamin D. How many people are taking vitamin D in here? Oh, you guys rock, awesome. So I'm going to show you here in a second, I'm going to have a clip come up that shows you that vitamin D is actually as effective on cancer cells as tamoxifen. So in my book, I think, well, there's really no need to be taking something really, really toxic if I can get some of the same benefits from something natural like vitamin D. So go ahead, we're going to watch this clip. Still working out our technology here.
And have a new study linking vitamin D and cancer in a way we've never heard before. Doctors know that low levels of the vitamin can lead to a host of illnesses, but now research suggests that vitamin D might actually hold the key to fighting cancer. John McKenzie has a story.
The studies just keep coming. The evidence mounting. Low levels of vitamin D are now linked to so many illnesses, from breast, colon, and prostate cancers, type 1 diabetes, and asthma, to multiple sclerosis and heart disease.
I even think of vitamin D as the fountain of youth, if you will, in that it allows us to age well.
At least that's the hope. And nowhere is the evidence more compelling than here in the laboratory.
So all the work here is on vitamin D?
Yes.
Professor Joellen Welch has spent the last 25 years studying the powerful effect of vitamin D on cells.
These are human breast cancer cells growing in a flask.
Taken from a woman who had breast cancer?
Yes.
Now watch what happens when you add a potent form of vitamin D. Within just 4 days, half those cancer cells are dead.
It looks like the cancer cells have basically shriveled up and died.
The longer they're treated with vitamin D, the more of an effect we see. What happens is that vitamin D enters the cells and it triggers this cell death process. It's similar to what we see when we treat cells with tamoxifen.
A drug used to treat breast cancer?
Yes.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. It's a very dramatic effect.
That was just the beginning. Researchers here then took human breast cancer cells and injected them into mice. Tumors quickly began to grow, but when the mice were treated with vitamin D, the tumors began to shrink. Look, this one was reduced to half its size. The one here disappeared entirely. Similar results have been seen on colon and prostate tumors in mice. The real test, however, remains. Will vitamin D work this way in people? Other lab work is revealing how vitamin D can actually improve the way cells function in the heart and in blood vessels.
And the number one killer is vascular disease, and vitamin D makes our arteries more healthy, basically. It allows them to age well.
Preliminary, tantalizing research on a common nutrient with so much potential. For Good Morning America, John McKenzie, ABC News, Albany, New York.
How many people is that new information for? Okay, awesome. For me, I'm a visual learner, so when I see those cancer cells reduced down, for me, that's I understand that. Okay, let's talk about sugar. So going back to I often get a debate with people because here's the first thing I'm going to tell you about sugar. It's addictive. It's like a drug. And if you're one of those people that you're sitting there and you're like, I got a bad sugar habit, and it's really hard for me to change that, I want to tell you that you have, whatever your taste buds are today, they are that way because you've conditioned them to be that way. It's not like you were genetically born to like sugar. You taught yourself to like sugar. So when they do a PET scan for cancer, they give you a sugar drink. And the reason they give you a sugar drink is because cancer loves sugar. So they want to see where that cancer is. So they give you a sugar drink so that all the cancer cells will go woo and have a little party, and then they can find where that is. So if that's what they do to find the cancer cells, doesn't it make sense that we should pull them out of our diet so that we don't feed those cancer cells? And like I said before, we have 17 times more receptor sites on a cancer cell than we do on any other cell. So what I know and what I've been telling a lot of people is that because it's such a tough habit to give up, you've got to make some lateral changes. So you go, okay, I've got a sugar tube. Well, one of the things that we teach in my office, and we're going to really go into this big as we go into the holidays, is that there's some lateral changes you can make with sugar, like stevia. Stevia is a really good, it's very sweet, but if you cook it right, it's a really good sugar substitute that will not feed cancer. Things like, we have got a protein powder back there that has stevia in it. Make sure you try the almond bars that are back there. They have the protein powder in them. For me, at the end of the night, what I do is if I've got that sugar craving, I have these things in my refrigerator. And I go and I grab it. It tastes like a Reese's peanut butter cup to me. And I've heard other people say it because everybody will tell me, you're a freak, and that's why it tastes like But it does taste really, it tastes a lot like a sweet, it fixes that sugar craving. So if you're one of those people that's really addicted to sugar, you've got to make some lateral changes. And the protein powder is a fantastic way to do that. Okay, I think let's go to the next one. Okay, so with that, we are going to move on to the next slide. Yeah.
Can we do a quick wrap?
Oh.
Are we